back to Joy Gypsies TV. I'm Jackie Ambro, and this is my daughter,
Digital Turiano Ambro.
And we are so happy to be with you today. We are introducing a really great friend of ours, Janine Bolon. She is a mystic, like we are, and she is a financial first responder. She is a sacred clown. She's an author. She is a course creator. She is a mastermind holder. She is simply a mastermind. Yes. And we want to bring her on today to interview her and introduce you to her and her to you, so you can know a little bit about her personal transformation story. And so we're going to bring her up next. So Janine, welcome to Joy Gypsies TV. We are so delighted that you're here.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a long time in coming, and now we are where we are, and it's great to finally be here with you guys. I know we had to kind of juggle our schedules quite a bit, and then things got really busy.
Right.
Right.
No kidding. Well, so would you like to tell a little bit about how you got to be you?
Okay, without boring your readers and making it the Reader's Digest condensed version. Probably you can tell by my personality. I'm a very direct person. I do executive summaries. I take large amounts of content and material and break it down into bullet points for people. I've done that most of my life. So that's how I operate. Real quick, I've always been what we call a God chaser. Ever since I was a small child, I've always wanted that one-to-one conversation with God, period, case closed. Didn't want a middleman, was raised Catholic. That didn't work so well. 18, left that door, went into a recovery program for myself, which was read everything I could on any mystic, sage, or master that could tell me what this God thing was all about. Came to an awakening 25 years later, where I had my own experience of enlightenment, and my master guru at the time turned to me and said, "Go, you're done. That's all I have to teach you right now. Make it happen." That's when the learning really began, as far as I'm concerned, because yeah, I understood who I was and where I was and what I was doing. Next thing I know, I was struck by lightning when I was a younger child. So I had this Native American group find me and started talking to me about I was a heyoka, or sacred clown. I had no idea what they were talking about. Got trained, got into a ceremony, now have worked with 16 different tribes. I've kind of moved away from that sort of work because I was no longer needed in all of that. And so now I do what I've always done, which is I help people with first chakra healing or money. Don't work with sex so much. I have other relationships and people that can help you with that. My job is to help you become financially viable, financially responsive, instead of just shutting down. So, ta-da!
Ta-da! That was the nutshell version. I feel like we are all struck by a bolt of lightning called Janine Bolon. Yeah.
Right.
And that you made it this far. You're here to help a lot more people make it through their own lightning strikes, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Very much.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So and that's the cool thing about you and the work that you're doing, is that you provide support that's very practical. That's one of the things that we focus on, is practical skills, practical support, and you're doing it at the level of finances. And so many of us are kind of split off. We think, oh, that the money thing, you know, we need to be charitable and poor in spirit, no, just poor in order to be on the spiritual path. And you're here to tell everybody that's just absolutely nonsense.
That's Age of Pisces stuff. That's like St. Francis. Okay. Yeah. I told you, recovering Catholic, studied them. We have over 350 some odd saints, studied them. And St. Francis was, you know, the beggar bull. You know, beg for my supper, beg for this, because it was more charitable to be in poverty. Yes, it was. It was the only way he could get out of the paradigm he was stuck in. So when he had his transformation, he kept trying to be killed off. He wanted to be a martyr, right? He ran to the Sultan. When you really study St. Francis, you get an understanding of why he chose the path he did, considering the life he was in. Unfortunately, kind of like the way we worship Aristotle in Western civilization, we got stuck in a paradigm for a very long time, because everybody said if Aristotle didn't talk about it, then as scientists, we weren't going to move. Oh, did I tell you I'm an analytical biochemist, used to do automation, robotics, and pharmaceutics? Forgotten that part. Anyway, moving on. So that was St. Francis and all that, right? And so we got stuck in that paradigm. And so people think, oh my gosh, money, ooh, I'm all about love. I'm all about the heart. I do things because I want to. And I'm like, you got to pay the rent. Okay, we got to make sure you pay the rent. And I want you to continue to do your job. I still want you to do your spiritual job. I still want you to do what you're called to do. But let's be financially responsive.
Exactly.
What do you mean by responsive?
What do I mean by responsive? Okay, let's talk about money, shall we?
Please.
Watch the room die. Watch the room just come down.
Yeah.
People are not financially responsive. People go, let's talk about money. I'm like, yeah, what's up? Right? That's not what I see in America.
No, it's not. It's a whole cultural thing, unless you already have it, and then you're not supposed to talk about it, except to flaunt it, and that's the few who are newly arrived at having it, pretty much. Yes. So yeah, that's the culture. And why do I know that? I'm an anthropologist. Go for it, Janine. Tell us more.
Where would you like to go?
Not on a cruise ship right now.
Oh, let's see. Can't come up with.
I know. Where I'd like to go, because she can't come up with it right now, is you also do training for money for young people. And that was one of the things that really caught my eye in the last month about your work, was that you actually do have a long record of helping young people, really young people, like, kids even, learn all about money and the importance of being responsive with it, right? So could you
Right.
a little bit about how you got into that and why you do it? And
well, this is the problem with living so long, is the fact that people grow older and they start procreating, and then they have their children, and then they remember you from back when you got them out of a financial problem, and then they hand you their kids, and you go, I work with adults. I was a professor at a college, and my students started having kids. How dare them, right? And so then they said, hey, we want you to teach our kids. So I got a group of them together, walked them through a webinar, wrote a book about their stories by changing the name, protecting the so-called innocent. And as I ended up moving along, I am now working webinars with nonprofit organizations that are working with children. I have software companies that approach me about how we should make things work a little better for children. But my big thing is I don't teach kids about money until they're 11 years of age or older. I may take some young people that are like just at 11, but I like to tell their parents, you want to wait until they start growing armpit hair or pubic hair and all that. You want to wait for that, because that's when their brain is caught up enough that they can actually handle the higher analytical reasoning skills to understand dun, 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 compound interest. If you try to teach before that time, it's not going to work. Just FYI.
Well, that's one of the great things about our friendship is that you and I are both scientists, and we look at neuroscience and we look at quantum physics and we look at how all this stuff fits together. And that's one of the gifts that you have too, is getting it all to come together in an understandable way. So that kids have this brain development thing going on. When to pinpoint's the right time to start teaching kids about compound interest and other fun concepts. And you also teach something that we love, which is called the 60-40 principle. And you don't teach it just for kids. You teach it for people of all ages. Now, why 60-40? What's that about again?
Okay, we're going to go back to that heart, okay? 60-40 came about because I knew what kind of multimillionaire I wanted to be. And I knew I didn't want to be like what I was seeing. So what I was seeing, I didn't enjoy. So what kind of millionaire do you want to be? And I also...
To tell our audience, you have been a millionaire.
Oh, multiple times. I am not now. Okay. Well, my assets, yeah, I am below $1 million, but am I worried? No. And that's where I want everybody else to be. I want everybody else to be financially stable and financially free to be able to pursue what they want to do. So anyhow, the 60-40 principle came about because I just intuitively knew these sorts of laws or principles. And the challenging aspect of that was that my people wanted me to teach them, and I really didn't know how to teach them what I just knew. And so I was sitting there struggling, and I remember I was on the living room floor, and I had like my 60 financial books out in front of me that I had read and studied, and I had all my notes, and it was just a typical scholar, just chaos all around me. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at all this going, I know this stuff, how do I teach it? And it literally, I happened to have a Christian Bible, and I opened it up, and it fell upon, you can cast your seeds upon ground, barren ground, and it was dividing things up, and the numbers didn't work. I remember that numbers didn't work for what I knew people were going through in the modern era. And I'm like, I can't teach it that way. I can't teach the 80-20 principle. It's not working. There's, if you're a solopreneur, which many of my clients at that time were business owners, I was like, 1/3 of their money is going to taxes. Like, when they say, oh, I charge $300 an hour, well, they're only going to see 200 of it. And that's, not net profit. That's gross, right? They're only getting 200 of it, plus then all their costs. And, you guys know the scenario. But anywho, so I was going through all that, and all of a sudden, a 5-pointed star just came out, went smack, and hit me, bam, right in the head. And that 5-pointed star, and then all of a sudden my brain started coming up with numbers and calculations. The next thing I know, 60-40 happened. So it was a very mystical experience. Do I bring this up when I'm talking to financial planners? Absolutely not. I do not talk about this. I only talk to joyful gypsies and other mystics of that caliber about that smack with that 5-pointed star in the, bink, right there in the head, right?
So right there.
Yeah.
Right there. It's kind of interesting how it happened, like right there. And then the 60-40 kind of fell out, and that's how the 60-40 came about. But I don't talk about that a lot in my books and everything, because I was a professor at a college, and I was the math and science guy, not the woo-woo guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all connected, right?
You know that, I know that, physicists know that.
Mm-hmm.
It's other people are learning.
Well, and that's what we're all here for. You're helping people learn how to connect all the dots, and we're doing the same thing. We're it's like we're running these parallel lives where we can help. Wait a minute. Yeah, parallel lives. I'm getting these images of geometry and space and time and the final frontier. Oh, the mind, yes. So you are an extraordinary person in that you were not born into wealth, and you came upon you came upon these principles in part because of your mystical studies, your desire to commune with the divine. And that is partly what intuitively brought you into the realm where you could really use the scientific brain you've got, the mathematical brain you've got, and bring all of it together to help people become independent financially and responsive financially, and to learn those universal laws of flow and abundance, and the hard brass tacks of actually tracking where your money goes, and what you can do with it to leverage it, and what can you do to save more of it so that you can have more to leverage with. So in these times right now, we've got today as we're recording, we have 36 million people out of work right now?
I haven't followed the numbers.
It's a lot. And yet this is a perfect time to rethink and reinvent and recreate our lives, and that includes at the financial level. So one of the reasons we wanted you on our show is to let people know, A, you exist and you are available to help people, and that B, you're accessible, and C, you're not so different from an ordinary folk, because you started out not from wealth and riches, but from a heart-centered, spirit-centered place where you were able to go, ooh,
do you want to tell us a little more about that from early beginnings?
Yeah.
And when you were just a little sprout?
When you were a little tot. Tell us from the time you were a little tot.
Okay, well, as you know, my main interest is your people. Whoever's going to be listening to this, whoever may be one of those 37 million people. I do not mind talking about myself, but always know if I can't turn it into a lesson where I can help them in some way, then it's not worth talking about. So it's always about your people, your community. For starters, maybe as points of connection, I will be glad to let them know my father was in the military, and we were spent most of my young adult life was not in this country. I was in the Bahamas, and I was in a small island called Eleuthera in the Bahamas. So those are the two big areas that I remember the most. We moved to southern Missouri when I was in high school. That was a culture shock after the place that I had been. And one of the things that I learned was that America was one of the easiest places to make money. Now, I know right now people are going to really resist that, but all I can say is thank God you're in America right now and unemployed, because I have seen how other countries offer and handle things. Things are better than when I was a child living around the world. But just know that America is one of the few countries where you can actually change your socioeconomic status. That is not always the case. You could make a lot of money and never rise socially in other countries. So realize that that is an opportunity that you only see in a few countries. And I won't name names, but I will say that Canada and England all have struggling issues when it comes to raising your socioeconomic status that we in America, we can do. So just realize that this is an awesome place to be in. Just talk to any immigrant, legal immigrant, who will talk to you about how many years they spent getting here because they knew they could change their socioeconomic status. So that, for one, we're starting there. Number two, I'm a woman and I own my own home. And that is insane relative to some of the countries I've lived in. Not only that, I'm not even freaking married. I didn't even have a man sign the paperwork with me. Okay. So don't think for a minute, I don't know just how special I am as an American woman. I have 4 children and not a single man on any of my legal documents. Do you realize how insane that is, considering the rest of the world? So this is not meant to say to anybody that their situation isn't horrible right now or isn't in hardship, but I want to let you know where you're standing. Let's talk about your foundation you're standing on right now. And that is, you're in a country right now where you can change your socioeconomic status, even if you're a woman. And I mean that seriously, even if you're a woman, even if you're a single woman, even if you're a single woman and you have children, you have opportunities here. So don't allow the energetic influences of everybody else's panic and the stack of bills on your desk that you don't know how you're going to pay yet. Don't allow that to color your view of where you stand right now. This country has the only place in the world that has buffalo. And the Native Americans talk about how buffalo is their abundance, and realize that this country has always been seen as the abundant country because we can make our own way. So as many times as a door slams shut, realize there are other doors opening. So it's just going to look different. And that's the challenge. We haven't ever been through something like this before. So the doors and the opportunities are going to look different. Don't bias yourself. Don't slam those filters down in front of your eyes, and just be open to the fact that you're going to have to work in ways that you never imagined. And it's actually going to be easier than it was before. But it's a little weird because it's like somebody, like they talk about it all the time. When you're having to carry a heavy load and then you let it off, what happens? You still have that posture. I don't know about anybody else. Am I the only one that had to go for 2 miles carrying a heavy load? I don't think so. So you remember 2 miles, you're walking along and finally you get it off and you're like, oh, and you're kind of crooked and you have to kind of go, whew, all right. Give yourself that, whew, all right, time. Give yourself time to realign with the new opportunities that are coming your way, because the universe always says yes. And I'm not the only spiritual teacher that says that.
That's right. That's
Very
absolutely true. Right. You know, for those people who are new to the spiritual path, it might just be scientists. Albert Einstein, most basic question we have: is the universe a friendly place or hostile? And I think you and I and Xochitl have all answered, it's a friendly place. Yeah. And support might not appear in the form that we expect it to, but it appears, and often in surprising ways, better than what we could imagine. So, yeah, absolutely. Tell us about your, how is it that you came into transformation where you could be on a more public stage like this with, you work with corporations, and you work with children, and you work with adults, and you work with solopreneurs, you work with so many different people. How did you get roped into doing that instead of singing?
Well, I'm going to start off with what started the whole process. And that was when I was 12 or 13 years of age. I was reading a Christian Bible, and in it was, there was one segment that stuck out to me: seek and you shall find. And that whole litany that I won't go into. And all right, so I started on seeking, and that was, I wanted a two-way conversation with God, because I didn't know why Moses was the only one that got to have any fun with that. I always thought, if I have to go and see a freaking burning bush and I know it's God, I don't care how much of a forest fire I have to create to make that happen. See, I was of that kind of mentality of, you know, this guy in the sky that refuses to talk to us. And I had a lot of Jewish friends, and they talked about the silence of God and the darkness of God. And so, you know, I kind of had a lot of that going on in my world too. So that was the first thing of seek and you shall find, the door shall be open, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so next in the Christian Bible, the other one, and this hit about 17 or 18 when I realized Catholicism really wasn't going to do it for me. And that was when I decided to follow that: seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all things will be added unto you. I said, I took like the entire Bible, all the amazing stories and everything that is in not only the Torah, but also in the Christian Bible. I took all that and whittled it down, because that's my personality. That's the key right there, that piece right there. So people would say, do you know the Bible? And I go, yes. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all things will be added unto you. I knew that chapter and verse, right? And I'd quote that, and they go, well, there's a whole lot more. I'm like, that's all I care about. That's it. That's all. That's my pole star. See, my dad was Navy, so it's all about the pole star. What is the pole star that's guiding your life? How are you navigating your financial ship, your personal ship, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever metaphor. So pole star. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, all things will be added unto you. And I held God to that, and I cussed him out. And we had 25 years of me bitching and moaning before he finally responded. Oh, found out he wasn't a he. Oh, found out he didn't even have form. Oh, found out I was a part of the whole freaking process. And I went, oh my God, you mean this is all my fault? Wait, whoa, back up the truck.
That's really true.
Yeah. It's a very interesting thing to swallow when you finally get it all and go, oh.
Yeah, God's within us. You know, that spark of divinity they talk about occasionally in you know, some of the religions. And then they drop the conversation right after the spark of divinity and go right back to you're a sinner and all that. Oh man, they kind of like totally missed the boat in my book. You know, because we have so much more of that in us. And we won't get too deep into that right now, but
well, let's just talk real quick then, because we're both scientists. You know, it all comes down to the definition. What is the definition of a mystic? And this is one of the things I like to talk to people about. I always say, well, what kind of religious person are you? Are you a mystic or are you a scholar? And they go, I don't understand what you're saying. I'm like, well, okay, let me give you my definitions. A scholar is the one that goes to the text and seeks truth in the text, no matter what text it be. You could be reading Karl Marx, you could be reading Stalin, you could be, because there's truth, there's nuggets, and it resonates with it harmonizes with you in some point. You can pull those gold nuggets out. Those are the scholars. And those are the folks that they end up becoming ministers and people of authority, because man, they have studied the work, all right? I don't want to denigrate that. That's a path. Guess what? Not mine. I am very like hands in the clay kind of chick. And I want my nails to be dirty underneath, because I want to know this stuff. I want to integrate it into every fiber of my being. I don't want to just like know the word of it, even though I started off as a scholar. So I will own that. But the other aspect of it, I'm more of a mystic. If I don't have a personal experience with it, if it's not working for me, I know I'm supposed to keep moving. I'm supposed to keep growing and expanding and learning. And so the definition for me for mystic is the personal one-on-one experience of the divine source, creator, whatever labels you like to use, because you and I both know labeling can also be dangerous in its own effect. But you have to start somewhere. Got to stand on solid ground somewhere. And my solid ground, my pole star, if you will, was seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all things will be added unto you. So starting right, going right back around to money. Well, when you have that kind of singular mindset about seeking the kingdom of God and all things will be added unto you, believe it or not, it is a promise that is fulfilled. That is a nugget of truth that is an underlying foundation of our three-dimensional universe. I don't care if you're one of those people, oh, we're 11 dimensions, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I can go down that rabbit hole with you, but I'm going to tell you, you're thinking in terms of dimension like color and time and blah, blah, blah. We're not talking about degrees of freedom. All right, so if you want to go down the physics, I will go down there with you, but be prepared that I am not the rabbit with the watch. I don't care how long we go down in that dark space, but I'll hold your head underwater until you're begging me to come out and breathe, because I want you to really know what the heck you are. Dun-dun-dun.
Exactly. Very true.
and that is one of the things. I mean, we get out in the weeds, we go down the rabbit hole, and that's one of the reasons we love you, is that right there, and it is so much more fun.
You can go down the rabbit hole and you can come back up and go, hey, yeah,
and then
the pole star, ready?
And then let's apply it. If
Yeah.
I can't grow corn with this, then I don't see the point. You know, if your spirituality doesn't grow corn, as one of my early teachers said, then there is just no point in it. I want the practicals, and like you doing the seek ye first the kingdom of God. And, you know, I looked at the, you know, these works and greater shall you do. That was what drew me, and I was like, yeah, because, well, okay, I went when I was in medical school, said, you know, I can now explain why I can see auras. I understand this physiology. I know how the electromagnetic field is generated by the nerves and the muscles. And my teacher said, you know, was a physician, he said, don't talk about that stuff. Just shut up about that. You can't talk about that here. And I was like, well, why not? This is science. and that was part of my education, realizing that the words do polarize. The words do drive people away who aren't ready for them, and yet those who are ready are drawn like magnets. So that again, we're getting back to you in the 60-40 principle. That 60-40 principle is also like a magnet, because it draws people to the universal law around flow in abundance and money. And that's something you teach, and something we are ourselves working on practicing. It is a slow going for beginners like us, but you really are the money mystic. And why don't you tell us a little bit about your the things that you've created that people can access, and we'll be putting those in the description for the video too. But could you briefly kind of talk about the programs that you're making available just to ordinary folks?
Yeah, well, one of the rules I have is nobody that comes to me is ordinary. If like attracts like, there you go. So first of all, I just want to point that out there. If anybody's listening in this show, they're not going to be ordinary. The other thing is, because of the situation that the world currently finds itself in, I have dropped significantly down to cost. I'm operating on cost only with this. I have a $9 a month program that they can sign up for. You can unsubscribe at any time, but I figure most people can handle the $9, but I have to keep my servers running as well. And what I did is I took my 10 steps to abundance, which only one segment of it is the 60-40 principle. That's my secret sauce, so to speak. That I just throw that out there. But there's 10 steps to how you can move yourself from a mindset of scarcity to a mindset of abundance using these 10 steps. That online course is free. I've been running that online course for about 7 years now. I update it frequently, and then that $9 will also buy you 2 hours of live Zoom time with me with a group of people. If you can't make it during those times because you're working for a living or you're working your 3 jobs, then you can send me through email a question and I'll answer it at the very beginning. So that's, you know, when I open up the Zoom, everybody comes piling on. But if they're not there exactly at the time when I said, I hit the record button and I'm going, because I know there are people who are going to listen to that recording later. So I cut off the chimes and everything. So don't, I just say that to folks that that's what your $9 a month is going to buy. 2 hours of time with me live on Zoom as a month, as well as the 10 Steps to Abundance course that they can get. I have other programs, but for most people, that's how you really get to know me, because you can't even buy my books right now at $9 a month. So there you go.
That's right. That's right. And it's a fabulous introduction. Anybody who's just starting out, trying to get their financial house in order, using principles that aren't just based on what you were taught in your family or what you were taught in well, it really isn't taught much in school, is it? Even now.
Yeah, we used to have, remember when we used to have consumer math? Like if you weren't going to go to college and you were going to go to a traditional track, like learn how to be a mechanic or trade, remember how they used to have consumer math and then how to get a loan for your small business? They used to have all that in high school. And that is just not the case. Everything's gone to STEM, which I honor. I mean, I love it, but I don't know about you, but I don't always want to talk about science. I would love to have some of the arts programming. There's occasionally, I really love theater. So for all the artists out there, thank you. Let's keep you creating. Let's get you financially responsive. All right, yeah, I'm going on my track again. Let's get you financially responsive so you can keep making that art. Because people like me, we're not good. We suck at drawing. All right. And some of you have like got this amazing gift, and I want you to be able to do that for a living and stay financially viable.
Well, and that is part of what I'm going to chime in on is, we're having to reinvent how society works. We're going to have to reinvent how the economy works. We're going to have to reinvent the notion of, quote, earning a living, because we do need to change with artificial intelligence and robotics and a lot of jobs disappearing that traditionally we've done. We need to have other ways for people to honor their gifts and contribute to society and still have money to eat and, keep a house, keep a roof over the head and all of that.
And make a profit too, excuse me, Coach Till, and to make a profit too, because I want you to keep creating, right? So it's not just subsistence living. Forgive me, this is another band. All right, I'm going to get on my soapbox one more time, and then we're going to have to go here in 2 minutes. But I don't want you just to make a living. I want you to thrive. Why? I want you to make money hand over fist. Why? Because I would prefer somebody like you to be multimillionaires than what I see before me. Thank you.
Yes.
No,
well,
I agree.
And absolutely. And we just want to remind you that
it's red.
These are probably familiar.
You might remember
just these. A little bit, yes.
We're tossed out of a gathering, as I recall, and as Joy Gypsies, our whole thing is about thrive, love life, transform the world, because
together we can.
and we are so grateful for you being on our show with us. Thank you, Janine. And we will be pointing people to you, because we don't teach about money. We teach about relationships and other things. But you're the money expert, and we love you.
Oh, we love you too. It's a pleasure. And to all of your people out there, they can go to my website, www.the8gates.com/joy. And you come there, and that's where you get discounted stuff, because I love the Gypsies and we definitely work together. So Coach Till, pleasure seeing you again. Take care, Jackie.
Thank you. And that is / right, Janine?
Oh, okay. Well, it's in the links below. I mean, come on. Really? Yeah. Seriously?
This is what I do, correct? I love you.
Love you, Mom.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.